What's up, everybody? It's Alex Leak and Friends podcast. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got Dustin on the show. What's up, Dustin?
So, thanks for having me.
Yep. This is the college football playoff breakdown episode. Our first college football one that we've done. But we've got a lot to talk about as the playoffs started tonight with Bama beating Notre Dame 31-14. And Ohio State beating Clemson 49-28. But you are a big Notre Dame fan, Dustin, so we'll start with Notre Dame Bama. A lot of people going into this game thought it was going to be a massive blowout. Looking at the past, 5 games, they haven't been very competitive. Notre Dame hasn't in their biggest games. Were you surprised? Do you think Notre Dame played better than you expected today? Or what were your thoughts on today's game, today's loss to Alabama?
I mean, I feel like, it could have been worse because Alabama was averaging like 49.8 points a game. Let me just say 50. And, I mean, we are the first team this season, I believe, to hold them under 40 points. So It wasn't that bad, but it's not enough. I'm tired of the embarrassment. Something's got to change in South Bend.
I mean, yeah, like they just kind of took over right from the beginning. I thought like they got out to the lead and they kind of like coasted towards the end because they were already up had a decent lead. Notre Dame didn't get to 14 until the fourth quarter. I mean, yeah, the score indicates that it was closer. It wasn't that bad, but they weren't really competitive. I think you would agree. Like Alabama seemed in control from kickoff.
Yeah, I mean, from the first play of the game, Chris Tyree got rocked at the start of the kickoff and damn near fumbled the ball. And luckily, we recovered that. And ever since he got rocked, that was the momentum. And Notre Dame just felt like they couldn't compete anymore.
So going back to 2000, in every BCS or New York Six bowl game since 1998, going back that far, Notre Dame's never been within 2 touchdowns or less than 2 touchdowns. So the closest game was 2005, lost to Ohio State 34-20. Why do you think that is? And do you think it's coaching or talent on the roster? I mean, I feel like Notre Dame gets good recruiting classes. Do you think it's on coaching that why Notre Dame struggled in the big game?
It's absolutely on coaching. It's preparation, getting ready for the big game. It's these last couple Notre Dame coaches have been soft, and they go in with high expectations, but don't want to coach to complete that goal.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like they got to show up better than that. I mean, Notre Dame fans seem to be content with where they're at, and I don't understand it. It's like this team was built on winning national championships, and now because it's been so long, people are content with just being competitive and having good recruiting classes. They don't care about being embarrassed routinely on national television in these big games.
Yeah, I have something to say about that, and it's the fact that they do get good recruiting classes and stuff, but once again, they come into the games unprepared. They look scared and nervous every time they come into a big game, and that's all on coaching, dude. And I'm tired of it, man. I mean, if you're a true Notre Dame fan and you're okay with that, take off that blue and gold jersey you wear to watch your team play on game day because that's just disgusting.
Oh shit! I'm puzzled. There we go. Yeah, I know. Like, I mean, I don't understand it. I'm never gonna understand being okay with losing or Notre Dame fans. This because we are from South Bend, this area. Right next to Notre Dame, and so this place would be going crazy. And you remember the way they reacted and stormed the field after beating number one Clemson earlier this year. And that was such a good feeling. And you guys were, at that point, had national championship on your mind, going back earlier this year. And to, in my opinion, not even really be competitive against Alabama. Notre Dame needs to find a way, and I don't know how, but we'll talk about this here coming up. They need to find a way to take that next step to where they are competitive with Alabama, with Clemson. Do you feel like Notre Dame is competitive with Clemson, considering they beat them once this year? Or was the loss when Trevor Lawrence played the ACC championship, did that override the win earlier in the year?
Yeah, that definitely override the win. I was happy as can be when they won, but then Lawrence came back and it was a whole different type of story, man. Their leader came back and it was just bad from there.
And so you go follow me with this here. If their recruiting class is as good as anybody in the country, if they're and they're in position to play for an ACC championship, to play in the college football playoff, and they're not even competitive. What does that say? Who is that on? I mean, to me, it's clear who that's pointing to.
The coaching staff.
Yeah, and it's not just play calling; it's having your players ready to run through a wall for you. It's having, your team so fired up and ready to go, finding that bulletin board material, which should be the national media narrative that Notre Dame isn't competitive in these big games. You should be using that to have your team fired up and ready to go for a big game, whether it be against Clemson or Bama or whoever. And, at some point, I feel like if you're a Notre Dame fan, you can't continue to root for a team, be a diehard fan week in, week out, year after year after year, and be just not even competitive in the big games. That something's got to change. And, maybe it is coaching. I mean, I know that you said it's on Brian Kelly, but who could get this team better? Who's the guy who could take Notre Dame to the next level? Urban Meyer, is there anybody else in your mind?
I mean, it's like you said, Urban, but I don't really have anybody in my mind at this time. Maybe we could get a Les Miles to South Bend. I mean, I've always liked Les Miles.
Yeah, me too. I have great respect for him, but it's got to be someone that can, because there's college coaches that take underrated recruiting classes and have a great year with them. They turn it around. Their coaching job brings the most out of an underrated or underwhelming recruiting class.
And I mean, there's two other guys that I forgot to mention that Notre Dame has reached out to before: Tony Dungy and John Gruden. I mean, those are guys that could come in and change the culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, and it's got to be frustrating because it's not like Notre Dame's a bad program. They're always there. They're always fighting. They got a great home field advantage, great fans when they can be there, which hopefully they can be next year. Full stadiums, all that. But, I mean, Notre Dame was one of the few schools that had fans in some of these games this year. And so, that's part of it that helped them have a good regular season. But, if you're content with regular season success and don't care that you're getting beat in the biggest games of the year, in the conference championships or the bowl games or the playoffs, then what are you doing year in and year out? You're just happy with regular season wins? Because I don't know how any fan can be content with that.
Yeah, to me, it really pisses me off. People call me an idiot, and a dumbass and everything for me wanting, expecting this team to win national championships and expecting Kelly to do it. I mean,
that's what he's there for.
You don't take. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm just agreeing.
You don't take the job at Notre Dame to be like, oh, well, I'm going to take you to a playoff, but it's okay. We're almost there. No, you get the job at Notre Dame to play for championships.
Yeah. I mean,
There's simply no excuse. I mean, yeah, what Kelly needs to do is go out there. It's not even about a whole team. He needs to go out there and get a dude at quarterback. That's what
yeah.
separates Notre Dame from everybody else. They get 5-star dudes at quarterback. And you're telling me you can't go get one 5-star dude? Come on now.
Yeah, that is the key. I mean, you got to have a quarterback, and in my opinion, Ian Book was good. He was nice, but he was a step away from what they needed. You need someone slightly better. You need a Kyle Trask. You need a Justin Fields. You need a Zach Wilson. You need somebody. Mac Jones. Notre Dame has the ability to recruit anybody and anywhere in the country. There's a lot of great quarterbacks that come out of Texas. Go get one of those guys. Um, Ian Book is good, and he had a good year. But in order to beat the Bama and Clemson and Ohio State, you got to have a quarterback like they do.
Which, I mean, we had that guy, but Kelly let him go into the transfer portal, which was Phil Jakovic. He has a big arm. He's a big guy, and he was, I believe, a 5-star quarterback.
Yeah, I think if you kept him, they could be national championship contenders. But, and some would argue they were this year. But it's like, you know, I've been in this area, I've seen big game after big game after big game. And every single time it's like, Notre Dame fans are fired up going into it. But me personally, I'm like, they don't really have a shot. And it's just become the narrative and common knowledge at this point. I don't know how many times I've been at Brothers Bar watching Notre Dame game with Notre Dame fans, Notre Dame students, and everyone's so fired up, and it doesn't go their way. And whether it's a last second loss to Jameis Winston in Florida State, or it's a loss to Ohio State or Bama or Clemson, it doesn't matter. An early season loss to Georgia. It's the biggest games they can't find a way to win.
Yeah, and let me say this for everybody out there who thinks I'm delusional. This is not me completely bashing Brian Kelly, okay? He's a good guy. He can coach. I'm not saying he's a terrible coach, but it's just time that we get somebody who can take us over that hump.
Yeah, you ask yourself this: do we want to be good year in and year out? Because that's what Brian Kelly brings. You're good year in and year out. You're always good. You always have a chance. You're always competitive. But do you want to be great? Do you want to compete for national championships? Do you want to, be the best team in college football and have a shot and compete with Bama? Actually compete with Bama. Actually compete with Clemson when they're at full strength. And it starts with coaching and quarterback play. And they need to find a way to take the next step. Maybe it's Urban Meyer. Maybe it's Les Miles. Maybe Gruden gets fired from the Raiders before soon because he's kind of underachieving in Vegas. So we'll see what happens there. But Brian Kelly's good, but he's not great, and I think that's the bottom line. And I don't know what kind of fan is content with being good when your resume, when your history is built on winning national championships.
And Kelly has always had trouble developing quarterbacks wherever he's been, and that's an issue in college football.
Yeah, the best quarterbacks are usually playing for national championships. Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Mac Jones. I would say Ian Book is the lesser of those guys in the playoff, and you need that guy, Kyle Trask, that Trey Lance, guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, we haven't had that guy since Brady Quinn.
What about, like Everett Golson? He was good, but was he great? He
Nope.
was close, Deshaun Kaiser, he was close. He was good, but was he great? And that's the thing. That's the difference. I feel like, Notre Dame's just a step away at head coach and at quarterback. And, you know, and you got to be ready. I don't care who you are. You can't be consistently getting blown out in big games. It's just a bad look. It's not
And
going to work.
I mean, it's, you know, as a fan, I feel for them other schools who, you know, come in and actually want to play a competitive big game, like Cincinnati, the way that they played Georgia. I think if you would have let them in to play Bama or somebody, yeah, it would have, may have been the same result, but it would have been better looking football.
Yeah. It's just hard because Bama's so good and Clemson's so good and Ohio State. It's like they're well established and they got great coaching. They really do. Because Notre Dame probably would beat anybody else. Who's the other guys that was in the conversation? Texas A&M. I think Notre Dame would beat them. Was Cincinnati in that conversation? Who else was in the
Yeah,
conversation?
yeah, it was Cincinnati.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame would beat them. Notre Dame Ohio State would have been I think a better matchup, but I think Ohio State still would have won.
Yeah, at, at the end of the day, man, I'm frustrated and I'm just upset that I have these fans telling me that I'm an idiot and delusional when I put my heart into Notre Dame football, and I just want a championship. One championship is all I'm asking.
Yeah, because you haven't seen one, and when it says when they all tap the thing that says "play like a champion," um, you want to see it. This team's known for winning championships, and you've been a diehard fan your entire life, and you haven't gotten to see one. So who can blame you? I'm the same way with my Bears. Die hard. All I want is one championship. One championship would bring me so much joy, and yet we haven't had one since 1985. My greatest memory is a Super Bowl appearance or an NFC championship appearance where we lose to our most hated rival. So I don't know how anyone can be content with at the end of the year losing, like especially for a program built on winning championships. And I don't
You
blame
know,
you. I don't see how people can say you're crazy for wanting to win. I don't understand it.
and this is also, bashing Jack Swarbrick too. How can you, as an athletic director at the University of Notre Dame, be okay with falling short? The past athletic directors demanded national championships.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
know,
I think it comes down to they're going to make money regardless, and they're happy with just making money and being close but not quite great.
and Kelly tells his players, play to the Notre Dame standard. Okay, what exactly is the Notre Dame standard? Because they don't play up to it. Last I knew, the Notre Dame standard was championship or bust.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been more so regular season championship or best. I mean, I don't know, but at some point you gotta get tired and frustrated with regular season wins that don't amount to anything at the end of the year. You can look at, you know, yeah, you're good. Is there feeling for optimism? Do you think the next couple of years some of the younger guys can put this team at the next step? Isn't that Tyron Mayer? Isn't he young?
Yeah, he's a true freshman, but
Yeah, Kyle Hamilton, who's what, a sophomore.
yeah, man, you can't throw on that guy.
Yeah, and so the talent is there. I don't think anyone's arguing that. Maybe the talent's there. It's just you got to get better coaching in these big games, more aggressive play calling, and have your team ready to go. Like I said, that you've seen it where certain coaches have their team so fired up where they come out onto the field and you can just sense it. You can feel it. How amped up they are and how ready they are to disprove a narrative and win a big game. You know, where we see all the time where underdogs come in fired up and play spoiler and beat the heavy favorite. Why can't that be Notre Dame once? Why is that never Notre Dame? And that's got to point directly to coaching, in my opinion. If the players are there, but they're not fired up and not in position and playing bad football, that's all on coaching.
And I have heard from players of the past that, Kelly doesn't do very well with getting along with some players, and he doesn't make the locker room, like you said, want to run through a wall for him. Saban, them dudes would take a bullet for Saban.
Yeah, they're great. What do you call it? They're great motivators. Dabo is a great motivator, and I think Urban Meyer is a great recruiter and a great motivator. And Ryan Day learned from him. You know, you got to have that it factor. Some people are meant to be athletic directors or scouts or whatever, but other people are just motivators, and those are great coaches.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's the point. And, it's just like, I have other fans from, other fans from other colleges are sitting there telling me, at least you guys are in it. Yeah, but, we have to get over that hump somehow, some way, man. I don't know.
Yeah, because at the end, because otherwise, if you don't change it up, you're gonna be getting the same result year in and year out, which we have seen is good teams that are just a step or two behind, and when it comes to a big game against some of the best programs, the best teams in the country, they can't quite get it done. That seems to be the standard and the what to expect from watching Notre Dame football over the past few years. That win against Clemson in the regular season was big, but you had to take it with a grain of salt knowing that Trevor Lawrence wasn't there. And that's why the ACC championship game was different. And so they need to find a way, whether it's a different coach or better coaching job by the one they have, to take the next step. Do you think that's something that Brian Kelly can learn and figure out and do better going forward?
Man, he's been there for 11 years. If he hasn't figured it out by now, then
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result.
And that's the point. Everybody tells me, oh, they're getting better and better. Dude, he's been there 11 years. How many years does it take to get better?
Yeah. No, I would think 3, 4, 5 years is enough to make your imprint on a program.
It's I don't know, man. It just leaves a bad taste in my mouth as a diehard Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, I mean, so it's nice to say, yeah, we want that quarterback. In my opinion, their recruiting classes are solid. Like the talent's there. They're always sending players to the pros. They're always having players going in the first round, second round, third round of the pros. Great tight ends, some solid wide receivers, some good running backs, great offensive linemen, some good defensive players. But quarterback and coaching seem to be the things that are holding Notre Dame back. So we'll see if they can get that turned around. Now, watching Alabama play today, do you think Alabama is just going to take it? They're the best team in college football and beat Ohio State in the national championship?
Yeah, I think Bama is, man. I mean, they had 3 Heisman finalists, dude, and three horses. Man, Mac
Yeah,
Jones was making unbelievable throws all season long, and Devontae Smith he's probably one of the greatest Bama receivers I've ever seen, next to Julio Jones and Amari Cooper.
yeah,
And it's nuts. And then Najee Harris, I mean, you had Eddie Lacy, Trent Richardson,
yeah,
Mark Ingram, and even Derrick Henry. And I think Najee Harris is almost better than Derrick Henry. I mean, he's the all-time Alabama leading rusher.
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, speaking of recruiting, you got all those guys there at Alabama year in and year out, like just studs. So if they can do it, so should Notre Dame be able to. Notre Dame's on that. That's the thing. They're on that par with the greatest teams in football name wise, so they need to act like it. But yeah, Bama should be the favorites. Now, Ohio State just put an ass whipping on Clemson, shocked a lot of people. Over Trevor Lawrence's second loss as a starting quarterback. Does Ohio State, you think they'll make it competitive with Bama? Or is Bama just head and shoulders better?
I think they'll make it competitive because Justin Fields showed some guts tonight, man. He took a
Mm-hmm.
shot from James Skowski, probably has, a bruised rib cage or a bruised abdomen or something, and that man stood in there and threw 5 touchdown passes, so
Yeah.
incredible showing, and I think it'll be competitive, but at the end of the day, more better athletes and more conditioning. I think Bama pulls away.
So, and I think this happens. I mean, so it's happened to Notre Dame consistently, but this can happen to anybody. And I think it happened to Clemson today, where the coaching staff kind of rested on their laurels a little bit. We're feeling too confident, too cocky, feeling themselves after the ACC championship win and talking all that shit about Ohio State and how they should be ranked 11th, and they came in and overlooked Ohio State. I think they were looking at Bama and drinking the Kool Aid and weren't ready. And Ohio State took that all that shit personally. They were fired up. Justin Fields played the game of his life, and the defense played great. I mean, I haven't seen Trevor Lawrence put the ball on the ground that many times ever. They were getting pressure on him, hitting him. He was getting up slow by the end of that game. A lot of fumbles by Trevor Lawrence. And I think that was like the perfect storm for Ohio State. And I think if we watch Bama Ohio State National Championship, I predict Bama's going to run away with it. I think that Clemson and Bama are the two best teams in college football by a decent margin. And Ohio State just put it all together tonight. Like I said, Justin Fields, even though he got hit hard and was a little banged up, I mean, he played the game of his life. That's going to do wonders for him for his draft stock going into the pros. But Bama's going to be ready, and it's so hard the exact opposite of Brian Kelly, where you don't know what to expect come the big game. With Nick Saban, for a fact that team's going to be ready to go for that big game, and they're going to come out fired up and finish the job. So I fully expect Bama to win that by like double digits at least, like 10
Ooh,
plus.
see, their defense is very suspect, though. That's what.
Bama's?
Yes.
Yeah, but I don't expect Justin Fields to throw for 6 touchdowns again. I really don't. I think they're suspect, but they're still good. And I still expect, like Clemson, man, Clemson was horrible in the secondary tonight. They were out of position all night. It was too easy. They were getting beat deep. Justin Fields made some great throws, but Clemson secondary was getting beat badly, deep a lot. Big play after big play. And, it wasn't pretty.
I blame that loss strictly because of what Dabo Sweeney said about Ohio State.
Yeah, because Ohio State, you can't sleep on them. They're a damn good, program. So they're going to be ready to go. And you give them bulletin board material, you straight up disrespect them like that, so they should be ranked 11th. I know that they blew them out last time, but, they remember that shit. And they were fired up. They didn't even need that bulletin board material to be fired up. And then you give them it. Ohio State was the perfect storm. Ohio State was ready to. It didn't matter who it was. Ohio State was going to win tonight. I feel like. And
Yeah,
yeah. So
but
what do you think?
yeah, I was saying too, like you said, that was the first team to – Trevor Lawrence actually looked scared out there, man. Like, he was looking over his shoulder and taking hits and limping a couple of times off the field, and it was just – they just gave up.
Well, they were getting pushed around. The Ohio State D-line was pushing around the Clemson O-line. Clemson was making stupid, uncharacteristic penalties. Remember, they had like a 4th and 2 that they were going to go for, and then a dumb false start moves it back to 4th and 7, and they have to punt. A lot of stuff like that, where they were just undisciplined and not ready to play. And I think this is one of the rare times that Dabo and that Clemson team wasn't ready to play. And were kind of sleepwalking, thinking it was going to be easy, and got their ass kicked. And do I expect Justin Fields and Ohio State to do that 2 games in a row? No, I do not. They've been inconsistent from what I've seen, or at least Justin Fields has been. And I don't expect them to do that to Bama. No, I don't.
All right, question for you. Since Justin Fields outdueled Trevor Lawrence, does that make him the better quarterback?
Absolutely not. Any dog can have his day. Any quarterback, any good quarterback can have a day where everything falls together, and they, credit to him because it's a playoff game. It's a big game. So to go out there and throw 6 touchdowns, you can't sleep on that. You can't say, he sucks still. But he had a great game. But do I expect it? No. I've seen enough from Trevor Lawrence where this one bad game is an outlier, and he will bounce back. He's the more complete quarterback. He's the number 1 overall pick. There's been some Twitter talk tonight like, does this win put Justin Fields at number 2? Should the Jets be looking at drafting Justin Fields? I say absolutely not. In my opinion, the second best quarterback in college football is Zach Wilson. I wouldn't have, Justin Fields has his moments, but he's not going to do that with regularity enough to be a great pro, I don't think.
Man, you're really high on Zach Wilson.
I am. I think that I would take him. I think Trevor Lawrence is 1, Zach Wilson's 2. After that, Mac Jones is a question mark. Like, he could be good. After that, I don't really trust anybody. I don't trust Trey Lance. I don't trust Justin Fields. I'm talking at the pro level. And I don't trust Kyle Trask, guys like that.
I was going to say, I thought Trask was the overall, best, person who I think would be successful out of those guys next to Trevor Lawrence.
Wow. I need to watch more of him, but I haven't seen enough consistency. He, like any quarterback can have their moments, but it's about being consistent and day in and day out, week in and week out performing. And that's what separates Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence, is they have that it factor. You know it when you see them play. You're like, damn, that dude can ball. I think Zach Wilson has a little bit of that, but he needs to land in the right situation and all that. But do I expect Justin Fields to throw 6 touchdowns against Bama in the national championship game? No, I do not. I think Bama wins it by 14 to 17 points. And I would take Mac Jones over Justin Fields. That's how strongly I feel about that.
I mean, yeah, after tonight and watching Mac Jones all season, man, I got to say he's very accurate and knows how to place the football. Yeah,
those people sleep on because he's your typical white Bama quarterback that never develops in the pro level. I'm talking A.J. McCarron, or who are the other ones? You know what I'm talking about.
Greg McElroy.
Yeah, Greg McElroy, those type of guys. He's not that. I think he's better. I think Mac Jones, you put Mac Jones in Notre Dame, and I think they might be playing for a national championship.
Mac Jones even had a better season statistic-wise than Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah. So, and I mean, it helps with all those weapons at Alabama, but you got to get it to them, and so we'll see. But do you? So you think Bama beats Ohio State? And it'll be close.
Yeah, Bama's the best team in the country.
Yeah, and so yeah, and that's what Notre Dame needs to be shooting for. Notre Dame fans shouldn't be happy until they're at where Bama's at right now, where they're the best team in the country year in and year out, and every year they're competing for a national championship. I think that's what you want too. And some fans are content with just being good, not great.
I don't get that, but
There's a lot of Bears fans like that too, and I'm constantly battling them on Twitter and social media. It's like either I don't understand a fan that's okay with losing, and I don't care where it is. I don't want to lose in the championship. I don't want to lose ever, and to be okay, especially with not being competitive in those biggest games, just blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I guess there's next year, and I mean, there are positives. Like I said, Bama was averaging 50 points a game. Notre Dame held them to 31, and
Mm-hmm.
we got.
So my thoughts on that is Bama took their foot off the gas. They were up by 3 scores, 28-7 in the third, and said, "This one's in the books. We don't trust Ian Book to come back." So they kind of took their foot off the gas. Do you think that could have happened?
No, I just feel like Notre Dame did what they typically did. I mean, they even did it against Clemson. They buckled down, 3-4 series in a row,
Mm-hmm.
and then they'll give up a big play. And I think they just finally made adjustments, but it was too little, too late.
And I agree with you. Holding Bama to 31 is good. That's a good job. That would keep most teams in the game. But the offense, you need to get more out of the offense. Need better quarterback play because you're never really going to run all over Bama. And that was part of why Notre Dame was so good in the regular season was the run game, right?
Yep.
And so you go into a big game against Bama, I don't care if you are Notre Dame's offensive line, you're going to struggle to run the ball. And that's where Ian Book or whoever is quarterback has to step up and be that big game quarterback that puts on the Superman cape and delivers a win. And I just don't see Ian Book as that. And I don't see a Notre Dame quarterback that's been that guy, like you said, since maybe Brady Quinn. And that's the next step is Notre Dame needs to find that quarterback that has that it factor that can deliver a national championship. Not potential, not could be, but has it. And you got to get the right guy.
Absolutely. I agree. And I feel like that right guy for it, we let go to Boston College.
Yeah. And so you got to do your best to keep those kind of guys around. And
massive arm, man. He has a massive arm.
Yeah. So.
And the problem was Ian Book looked like he was scared to take shots downfield. I mean, Notre Dame's receivers average 6'3" and higher, and you're afraid of a 50-50 ball when Bama's, cornerbacks are 5'10", 5'9", 5'11". Dude, throw that up.
Yeah. And you can't be timid. You can't be scared in a big game like that. You have to be like, fuck it. This is our one shot. Let's just wing it and see what happens and hope for the best, really. I mean, you have to be aggressive against a team like Bama. You can't sit back and hope that they're going to make mistakes. You have to attack them.
And 50-50 balls, if you throw it correctly,
like
your
70-30,
receiver,
80-20.
Yeah, your receiver is more than likely going to catch it if you throw it correctly.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll see. Hopefully next year is better, and hopefully this national championship game lives up to the hype. I wanted to see Bama Clemson, but we're going to get Bama Ohio State, so hopefully Ohio State brings it. Justin Fields has another great game, and we have a good championship game. But hey, the good news is we made it through the season. A lot of people said we weren't going to have any college football this year, and we're about to get a national championship game.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. And big shout out to all the players who dealt with this adversity and made it through. You know, them guys are
Mm-hmm.
incredible.
Yeah, the Warriors, they risked it for our entertainment, and we can't be happier that we got to a full season or as close to it as we could, a full season of college football. So it was a lot
And
of fun. Great
and
year.
I do still want to give a shout out to Ryan Day and the Buckeyes though for fighting to get your team back on the field. That right there shows heart.
Yeah. And a lot of people, including myself, were predicting a blowout again of Clemson. You know, Clemson's just better than Ohio State. Credit to Ohio State, credit to the coaching staff for having that team ready to play and pull off a big win when no one thought it could happen.
I was even talking about like when the Big Ten did their shutdown, Ohio State was the first team to say something.
Yep, they were fighting for it. And I remember Justin Fields was the one that put out like a petition to get Big Ten football going. So credit to guys like Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence for standing up and saying we want college football, risking their health, risking safety, all that to put on a performance for us this season. It was awesome and definitely a great product. So that'll do it for this one. You have anything more you want to add, or is that about wrap it up?
Yeah, to all you guys out there who think that I'm an idiot, for one, I know sports. For two, let me tell you something. Sports is my passion. College football is my passion. And for three, again, if you are okay with what Notre Dame is doing and the way their program is going, please take off their blue and gold. Do not watch the football games, okay? If you have heart, you would want to win a championship.
How dare you want to win championships, Dustin?
That's just how I am.
All right, that'll do it for this episode. We'll try and do more of these college football episodes coming up next year. So stay tuned. Have a good one, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, and peace out.